All right, go. And I'm sitting in here doing some hobby stuff. So, what have I been doing, you may ask? Or not, but either way, I'm going to talk about it. The first thing I did is magnetize these cavalrymen for House Stark. It was actually pretty easy. I just used these very thin, I think these are 10 by 1 or 10 by 2 magnets, and I glued them on the bottom. And then once they were on the tray, I actually just glued them on the bottom of the thing because there's enough gap there that it won't interfere with anything. So now, you know, I mean, if I shake the hell out of them, I'm sure I could knock them off, but because the problem is I shake anyway. So if these things aren't in there really good and I pick it up and I'm like, I mean, they're going to go all over the place. The thing I'm working on right this second is this my ship, right? If I got a bunch of miniatures on this bad boy and it's floating around, right? The last thing I want is me messing with it and the miniatures flying off, right? Like into the ether or whatever. So, what I have is I have a bit of very thin sheet metal, and I'm going to score it so that it's just a bit smaller, just a bit smaller than the cardboard, so that the cardboard will still easily fit. It's this stuff. And then grab my paramedic shears because you can cut a penny in half with these things. I mean, they will basically cut anything in half. And this metal is easy work for these guys, right? Now, this is basically mild steel or something like that with tin coating or whatever. So I am going to super glue this onto the bottom of uh, the deck. I now before I do that, let's grab a miniature that's magnetized. Let's see. Yep, yep, there it is. See how it's sticking? Now I don't know how good that's going to be because that's slick, but it'll keep the miniatures from sliding around too much. So I think that's going to be a good deal. So the next thing to do then is to grab the old trusty super glue. Uh, I know the bottle says Loctite super glue, but it's not Loctite super glue. It's I buy this super glue that comes in this big old bottle, and then I just keep a little bit of it handy in these bottles. Just easier to deal with. Now, it really doesn't matter which side I do it on because both sides are identical. And I guess if I wanted better magnetization, I could literally cut this thing in half, like slice it in half. But I'm not trying to get too crazy with it. And remember, we need to make sure that it doesn't interfere with the deck itself locking back into where it's supposed to be. So we got to make sure we give a good gap all the way around for the part of the deck that goes into the grooves on the sides and the back of the thing. And, if I want to, I could just go ahead and clamp it, but I'm just going to hold it. Use the clamps, boss. So that's the back. I'm going to have to cut a piece out for the front. That's going to be a bit more of a challenge because I'm going to have to, cut some angles. But your boy used to be a carpenter at one point. Granted, that's been many, many years ago. But cutting is not something that I am unfamiliar with. Hell, in my life, I've just about been everything at one point or another, except for late for dinner, as they say. You know? So I've got a pretty decent score. That looks about right. I mean, since no one's ever going to see this, I'm not super, concerned about it being exactly perfect. No one will ever see this. This is going to be underneath the ship and hidden. Now, I am going to have to get some more magnets so that I can magnetize the infantry and stuff like that. But I just wanted to try it out. I was watching a Song of Ice and Fire video, and this guy was talking about how he magnetized them. I normally would put a metal plate down. For infantry, it'd be like a 30 mil plate. And then that way magnets can stick to it. But the way he does it is this guy just makes sure that all the magnets are aligned the right way. And then, that way everything works out fine. So it takes a little bit more work making sure that the magnets are all aligned the correct way. But on the other hand, it's super easy since you just glue them on and then glue one on the bomb and it's done. I've got some, these are the crew from the Victory that I'm getting ready to put a zenithal highlight on. They are mostly leather and metal. And then, of course, their cloaks are going to be a sea green because, Greyjoy. So they're going to have a sea green cloak. All right. Getting some text messages real quick. It's one of my brothers sending me some spicy memes. Creepiest vanity plate goes to. Yeah, guy's got like a rusted out van, and the vanity plate is kidnapper. It's like, I don't know. I don't know about all that, but so let's see if we can get this plate back in here. Shouldn't be a big deal since these things just basically slide into a slice that's cut for them, and then you push them down, and boomity boom, a boomily boomily, a boppily boppily, boppily boppity, boomity boomity. That's my version of Peter Griffin speaking Italian. Boobily bobbly, bobbly boobly. Okay, it looks like I will glue this in because the metal has caused it to not want to set exactly how it should. So the front of it is kind of wants to stick up a little bit, but you know what? That's okay. We put a little glue in, it'll be fine. And then there we go. It's got metal on the bottom that you can't see. And while I don't expect the metal to like be super whatever, I do suspect that it will be a lot better than it was. And that'll be good. That'll be good. So let me set it down here. I've been cleaning my desk off, so and let me grab one of my miniatures. Let's grab this thrall here. See? Thrall with the great axe. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's gonna work. See? See if it shakes, gets jostled on the table, whatever. I mean, the guy might move, but he's gonna stay on it. And we'll see when I do the next one. Maybe I'll just peel half of the cardboard off and glue the metal to that, and then that should increase the stickiness of the magnet, let's say, even though I know that's not necessarily the exact right word, but that should increase the magnet strength by quite a bit. And going through some sci-fi sprues real quick. I'm looking, there they are. I'm looking for a couple of lizard tails. Why? Because I need to make some lizard tails. Because Dragonborn, for whatever reason, don't have lizard tails. And Sarens from the game do have lizard tails. So I have extra lizard tails laying about that are going to have to get glued onto these Dragonborn, and that way they will be able to represent Sauron dragon riders or whatever, you know. I mean, dragons have tails, so why a dragonborn wouldn't have a tail is beyond me anyway. I mean, obviously they should have a tail. I mean, that's just, you know. But you know, they're obviously, I don't know if they're 100% reptile or what, because the females seem to have breasts, but you wouldn't think they would, since you wouldn't think that they would be, you know, breastfeeding young. But hey, you know, maybe that's just thinking too much about it, which is something that I am sometimes given to do, is just think way too much about stuff that ultimately doesn't matter. So, yeah, there we go. See? Now my guy's got to tell. And when he's all painted up, it'll be like, cool. Which these guys are only going to be green anyway. I mean, the um, Sarens and Tauslanta, they're basically just green. So, super easy. Barely even an inconvenience, to quote George or Ryan George or whatever his name is. And this guy, I might have to do some finagling with him because of how his stuff is in there. It might take a. I might have to. Actually, maybe the curled one will work better, right? So I wish I had something more exciting to talk to you about. I mean, I did my Garraby thing the other day, making fun of him for talking about trash and treasure as regards uh, the OSR and fifth/sixth/whatever edition. I was I was laughing pretty hard. I was watching Dungeon Professor. I disagreed with him, but hey, you know, that's okay. You can disagree with people and still think they're cool. Dungeon Professor did a top rated D&D games of all time, and freaking 5th edition was way higher than I would have given it. I mean, I would have put it behind 3rd edition for sure, since 3rd edition really was the game changer for D&D when it came out. But hey, we all have our opinions, and the Roomba. And even though I think his was wrong, I get where he's coming from. You know, I can see where he's coming from, and okay, that's fine. Uh, he put Menser D&D at number one, which means he's not an unintelligent man, because some of you guys already know that I have, even though I think AD&D first edition is the best to play, the most, I would say definitely the most complete game, or the best game if you're just starting, is definitely the Red Box Mincer edition. You know, and mainly for the same reasons Dungeon Professor gave. If you haven't seen his video, go check it out. I know some of you may not like him or whatever, but there's no reason not to like the guy. I mean, he's a nice enough guy. And as I've said all along, believe it or not, even though he's friendly, because maybe he's just a nice guy. Maybe he's just a nice guy, right? Um, he is he's definitely more of one of us than he is um, a Jenny D or a XP level 3 or one of those guys. Because, I mean, Jenny D, XP level 3, let's be honest, they are 5e shills. And no matter what 5e and Wizard Coast do, they're always going to be 5e shills, because it's how they make their money. And hey, okay, that's cool, fine, whatever. Uh, but it is what it is, and you know, whereas Dungeon Professor, he started out hardcore 5e, and now his whole channel has changed. It's no longer where we learn to play 5e, blah blah blah, and now it's like where we learn to play all editions of D&D better, and so I'm want to you know cut him some slack, show him some respect, because after the fiasco with the D&D trying to take everybody's stuff, you know, uh, the Dungeon Professor stuck to his guns, man, or Professor Dungeon Master, whatever. He stuck to his guns. He stood up against that BS, and I don't even know if he runs 5e anymore. Not that he ever did. It's like he kind of ran 5e, but he ran it with so many of his own personal eccentricities, let's say, that it practically wasn't 5e. You know what I mean? It was like, I don't know what you call it, but like max hit points at 35 and all that sort of thing, which I am not at all opposed to. I know he would never listen. And if he does listen, hey, give me a shout out. Let me know you heard what I'm saying. But Dungeon Professor or Professor Dungeon Master with your Deathbringer, have you considered at all playing Baptism of Fire? I already know that you love OSC. I love OSC too. But based on a lot of the mods that you have made to 5e to make it more of a game that you want to play, I kind of think you would really enjoy Baptism of Fire, because it has the low hit points. It has the deadliness to it. It has, well, I don't know how, if you're Polish or Slavic or anything like that, but it definitely has, Slavic, Polish mythology in spades, It's set in Piast, Poland, around about the 9th or 10th century. So, you know, Vladimir the Great has just very recently Christianized the Kievan Rus. Uh, the Piast family is trying to Christianize Poland. Not that they're having a great time of it, but they're trying. So you know, it's one of those deals where, and I'm not only directing this directly at the dungeon professor, but at any of you. If you haven't given a look at um, Baptism of Fire, I strongly suggest that you do. Now, a lot of you are going to look at it and you're going to be like, no, screw that. It's made by the RPG Pundit. You know what? I would say don't let that stop you. First off, because Pundit has made some really good games. So not buying a game because the Pundit made it is kind of like, I don't know, it's just kind of lame, you know? It's like, really? But especially if you're willing to buy games that, you know, Wizards of the Coast have made, they've actively proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that they just absolutely hate the majority of their own players. So, you know, if you're willing to put up with Wizards of the Coast's straight up anti customer BS and also their straight up racism, and it is what it is. Wizards of the Coast is a racist company. Now, a lot of people are like, going to be like, well, what do you mean they're racist? They're always hiring, you know, looking to hire minorities, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's exactly what I mean. That's exactly what I mean, right? A racist company means that they are a company that is so focused on the race and skin color of people that that's what they use as a metric for hiring. And that's racist and illegal. How they've gotten away with it, I don't know. Because honestly, if somebody were to like catch, you know, one of their creative whatever saying don't draw white men and then you know, take them to court, they'd probably win. And then Wizards of the Coast would be screwed because they would have to explain to a judge by what reasoning they have decided that they're just going to discriminate against an entire group of people based on skin color, right? And again, that is what they do. That's what they do, right? So if you think you hate RPG Pundit and you have some reason he's far right, he's whatever, but at the same time you're willing to support Wizards of the Coast, what that shows is you're not a person of principle, because principle requires you to not be a freaking giant hypocrite. And I know we all are hypocrites on occasion, right? But you can't say that you're I'm not a racist and then immediately support a company that is actively racist. I mean, well, you can say it, but you would be lying. You are a racist, or at least you're okay with some level of racism because you have no problem with the game company you support being actively racist. Of course, a lot of people will try to justify this by being like, well, white people have been represented enough, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't change a thing. Doesn't change a thing, you know? If you think it's okay to discriminate against someone based on skin color, then just admit it. You're racist. And if you think if that person's white, then that makes it okay. Then admit that you are an anti-white racist. And what's funny is most of the anti-white racists are white themselves. So basically you are a self-loathing racist, right? If there's any reason anyone should really have for not supporting Wizards of the Coast, that should be it. Just the straight up fact that they are a racist company and that they make decisions based on race way often, like way more than they really should. You know what I mean? Like, as if, somebody tells you, hey, paint a heroic scene with a paladin and whatever and whatever and whatever. I mean, if the painting is good, I want, I'm posing the question. If the painting is good and it really drags the feeling of adventure and danger and like all the cool stuff, right? Then my question is, does it really matter what color the paladin is? I mean, does the paladin always have to be, a black guy? Could he not sometimes be a white guy and still look badass? My answer, of course, is yes. Of course. But again, the company that so many people on YouTube talk the most about and support the most is the most racist company, or one of the most racist game companies in the industry. I guess they could be beat out for racism by I don't know, like Green Ronin or something like that, because those guys are straight up, insane. Like Trump getting elected in 2016 literally broke Chris Pramus's brain, and he just stopped. He went from guy who designed one of the greatest versions of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay ever to just freaking crazy as hell. And it's, when you're an older guy in the hobby scene and you've seen this happen like in real time, it's kind of wild. You're like, wow, that guy used to be a relatively normal human being, and now all of a sudden he is completely lost his damn mind. I wonder what happened there, but we all know what happened. He got that Trump derangement syndrome. He become convinced. I mean, if he actually did, because the reality is that so many people with TDS don't actually have or believe in it. They just talk the talk because that's what they're expected to do. Like if they don't talk the talk and if they don't hate the orange man enough, then they could get in trouble, with other people within the companies that they want to work for. And so they have to. It's really sad when you think about it that, a group of people can control the industry so thoroughly that they're literally able to control what people think or say in public, but that is the way it is until people wake up and realize that's not a good thing. But unfortunately, I feel like I've kind of went away from what I was trying to say, which is, if you've got a problem with the RPG Pundit for something you heard on Twitter, no. That's my answer to you. No. Nope. Don't believe the bullshit that a bunch of fat, purple-haired cat ladies say about the guy. Look into his stuff yourself. Don't be a sheep your whole life. Bah. Um, and to the dungeon professor, who none of this is directed at, uh, I would suggest you look into Baptism of Fire just because I think that as far as versions of D&D go, it is one of the best. You know, if that's what you're into. I mean, me personally, I've been doing a lot of Vampire the Masquerade lately, being an edge lord and all that. So, you guys will forgive me if I haven't been quite so talking about D&D so much. And I've been concentrating a lot on my war games and whatever. So you guys get what I'm saying. But the reality, though, is that a lot of people give that guy bad a bad reputation that he doesn't deserve because he's not that bad. And his opinions are really milk toast. It's not like he's some kind of far right extremist or anything. I mean, he's barely even a Trumper. He's more of a Bush style neocon than anything. So, you know. Anyway, now that I've said all that, I'm going to get to putting the zenithal highlight on these guys using a very bright white and the dry brush method. Uh, and then after that, I'll start putting some color on them. So that'll be a different video, though. 30 minutes, I think, is long enough for a video. So if you enjoyed it, thumbs it up. Send it out to people if you want people to hear that I've been talking smack about them or mentioning them or whatever. Whatever makes you feel good, do it. If it feels good, do it. From one of my favorite movies. And have a wonderful Tuesday, I believe. So, das Vidania and Afrita Zane. Goodbye.